presentation was about the opportunities on the semiconductor industry for the North American region. And COSTEP invited me here to talk about what's happening in the Mexican scene in terms of this industry and how that resonates to the strategies in the U.S. regarding the semiconductor industry. And what's happening all over the world in terms of this phenomenon of geopolitical impacts on the semiconductor industry. So we talked a little bit about that and how the regions could strengthen this industry in different aspects of the supply chain.
And at one point you said this is a growing industry and within 5 years it could be worth $1 trillion.
Yeah, or 1.2 or 1.3 trillion dollars. I mean, could double very quickly, and because of the demand of the most advanced chips in history for, that are serving the artificial intelligence capabilities of today.
So we had a lot of economic development leaders from the Rio Grande Valley here today in the audience. They're all going to want to know, does this region have a chance of attracting maybe the tier 2, 3, 4, 5 type companies that could play a role in this industry?
It does, definitely, because this region has been very strong in manufacturing. And, last year, along with UTRGV and TMAC, the Texas Manufacturing Assistance Center, we did a program supported by the EDA called Manufacturing Reshoring. And this program allows us to know a lot of manufacturers in this, small and medium levels, and those companies, with a little bit of good information, a push, support, they could be serving this or other high-end industries, but they need to know the right in and outs of those industries. They need to understand the regulations, they need to understand the certifications, they need to understand the specific technical requirements of those industries. And that's important for them to know in order to have a specific plan of how to tackle an opportunity in the marketplace.
The fact that we're on the border, is that an advantage for us?
It is definitely. You can have an opportunity of a very competitive or more competitive costs, and of course access to Mexico's and American well-trained workforce development, and this access is important for this industry. I mean, the specific skill sets that are needed are gonna come from regions that have young people that are interested in this type of industries and topics.
At one point in one of your slides, you mentioned the Texas Semiconductor Innovation Consortium. Can you tell us a little bit about that group?
Well, I think that this is an effort as in other regions are happening as well. These particular consortiums are starting to pop out in a way to address that particular gap of skill development and workforce training. Is how we work with industries, local education institutions, and the governments, the local governments, in order to have a fast-track process of helping those institutions train the right skill set on the people that this industry is going to be needing. In the 2 or 3 year framework, they're needing it fast. That's the thing, and we're not coping with the need that this demand is posing us. But I think those consortiums are part of that. I mean, it's happening in Arizona, it's happening in Texas, I'm sure it's happening in New York and in other areas in the United States where these investments, big investments are happening. So I think it's good to have local consortia embedded into this, because that's the only way to address it in a faster pace.
How important is having good supplies of water and energy?
Well, it depends. In a particular part of the supply chain, it's very important. For the fabrication of chips, of semiconductors, it's quite important. I mean, it's water and power is needed, and it's needed uninterrupted. So clean water and clean energy, it's important to have, and as well to comply with sustainability standards of the industry. But for other parts of the supply chain, not necessarily is that intensive in terms of consumption. So
Could our academic institutions play a role on the research side?
well, yeah, definitely. But not only play a role, but I would say that training is one, training the workforce is one, and the research, they would be very close to the design IP capabilities of the companies. So the industry is needing IP creation, and research could help in that. I mean, basic research, applied research, and I think right now, in the race that we're competing in the world, applied research is going to be very, very heavily intensive. So definitely, institutions like education institutions are going to need to play a role, and we need them to play a role.
And another part of your presentation, you mentioned that the US imports $60 billion, Mexico $30 billion. Explain what those figures are all about.
Well, that's very interesting. It's in terms of consumption of imported semiconductors from all over, over other parts of the world. That means that North America is consuming a lot of them. A lot of yearly based consumption on semiconductors. Altogether, we're consuming $100 billion of semiconductors. So if we're consuming them, that means that we have a heavy integrated electronic industry. So why we cannot locally in North America substitute part of those $100 billion in terms of semiconductors? The thing is, if we're consuming them, we can produce them in some way. And if we can produce them, that's very worthy investment. And I think that we have to be part of that integration. And not only the US, but as long with the capabilities in Canada and in Mexico as well.
And then you had a Q&A at the end. What did you think of the questions from the economic development leaders down here?
Very interesting in terms of, they are concerned about many things that in other regions we are concerned. In Mexico is the same question, is what should be investing on to attract business like in that sector? It's not about only investment, it's about, the government's guaranteeing some support of the region where the company is going to invest, and local companies and even local businessmen to be part of the supply chain and to put together the capabilities of the region to the demand that big companies and tier ones are posing to the environment, to the ecosystem. And if this ecosystem responds in a good way, I mean, business is going to flow, and it's going to be, strengthening the region as well. So I think that's the most important thing of their concerns as economic development officers, is how we manage of conveying this information, making the proper investments, and then bringing the business to the region. That's their concern, and that's the concern of us as well in other regions. And I think that if we build the business cases in the right way, and we have the very low detail product specific niche within the semiconductor industry, we can say probably, I don't know, South Texas will become the next factory of the world in terms of memory chips. That would be something interesting, but we don't know. We need to address that first. What's that we're going to be best at, and the local capability and production can chip in.
Excuse the pun.
It's good, yeah, but no pun intended.
Mr. Marín, thank you so much for today's interview. Have I missed anything out? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you very much, and I mean, I'm very grateful that COSTEP and Harlingen EDC was willing to host us today, and I think that the U.S.-Mexico Foundation for Science joining efforts with these institutions in the U.S. could make a difference.